3, Chapter 1, titled Question by Vidura, text number 44. Ajasya janmotpathanashanaya karmani akarturgrahanaya pumsam nanyat korati deha yogam paro gunanam utakarma tantram. Ajasya janmotpathanashanaya karmani akarturgrahanaya pumsam Nanvat yatha krorati deha yogam paro gunanam utakarma tantram. Ajasya janmotpathanashanaya karmani akarturgrahanaya pumsam nanvanta krorati deha yogam paro gunanam utakarma tantram. Word by word translation. Ajasya, of the unborn. Janma, appearance. Utpatha nasanaya, for the sake of annihilating the upstarts. Karmani, works. Akartu, of one who has nothing to do. Grahanaya, to take up. Pumsam, of all persons. Nanu anyatha, otherwise, ka, who, ahati, may deserve, deha yogam, contact of the body, paraha, transcendental, gunanam, of the three modes of nature, uta, what to speak of, karma tantram, the law of action and reaction. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The appearance of the Lord is manifested for the annihilation of the upstarts. His activities are transcendental and are enacted for the understanding of all persons. Otherwise, since the Lord is transcendental to all material modes, what purpose could he serve by coming to earth? Purport. Ishvara Paramah Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha, from Brahma Samhita 5.1. The form of the Lord is eternal, blissful and all-knowing. His so-called birth is therefore an appearance only, like the birth of the sun on the horizon. His birth does not, like that of the other living entities, take place under the influence of material nature and the bondage of the reactions of past deeds. His works and activities are independent pastimes and are not subject to the reactions of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita 4.14 it is said, Namam karmani limpanti name karma phalaspriha iti mam yo bhajanati karam bhirna savadhyate. The law of karma enacted by the Supreme Lord for the living entities cannot be applicable to him, nor has the Lord any desire to improve himself by activities like those of ordinary living beings. Ordinary living beings works for the improvement of their conditional lives. But the Lord is already full of opulence, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge and all renunciation. What should he desire improvement? No one can excel him in any opulence, and therefore the desire for improvement is absolutely useless for him. One should always discriminate between the activities of the Lord and those of ordinary living beings. Thus, one may come to the right conclusion regarding the Lord's transcendental position. One who can come to the conclusion of the Lord's transcendence can become a devotee of the Lord and can at once be free from all reactions of past deed. It is said, Karmani nidhanti kintucha bhakti bhajam. Lord minimizes or nullifies the reactionary influence of the devotee's past state. Brahma Samhita 5.54. The activities of the Lord are to be accepted and relished by all living entities. His activities are to attract the ordinary men towards the Lord. The Lord always acts in favor of the devotees, and therefore ordinary men who are fruitive actors or seekers of salvation may be attracted to the Lord when He acts as protector of the devotees. The fruitive actors can attain their goals by devotional service, and the salvationists can also attain their goal in life by devotional service of the Lord. The devotees do not want the fruitive results of their work, nor they want any kind of salvation. The relish of glorious superhuman activities of the Lord, such as His lifting Govardhan Hill and His killing the demon Putana in infancy. His activities are enacted to attract all kinds of men, karmis, jnanis, bhaktas. Because He is transcendental to all laws of karma, there is no possibility of His accepting a form of Maya as is forced on the ordinary living entities who are bound by the actions and reaction of their own deeds. The secondary purpose of His appearance is to annihilate the upstart asuras and to stop the nonsense of atheistic propaganda by less intelligent person. By the Lord's causeless mercy, the asuras who are killed personally by the personality of Godhead get salvation. The meaningful appearance of the Lord is always distinct from ordinary birth. Even the pure devotees have no connection with the material body, and certainly the Lord who appears as He is in His Satchidananda form is not limited by a material form. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavansya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Naguratam Tam Sanjivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parigana Shaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namuste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Taru Vascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patithanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Bashadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kaviviriritam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatakam Bhuviginnati Debhuridajana Bhuviginnati Debhuridajana. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this section, Vidura is inquiring from Uddhava about the Lord and His glorious pastimes, and also about Lord's devotees. So, in this material world, Lord appears, and as he declared in Bhagavad Gita, that He appeared to annihilate the miscreants and establish the Dharma. So, where it says that annihilate the miscreants by protection, by giving protection to the devotees. In terms of giving protection, here Srila Prabhupada mentioning that the protection comes in two ways. First is the physical protection, first as we think that the physical protection from something, because whenever we think about this word comes protection, what do we think first? We think our body, right? But here, what Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport, that the devotees simply can get protection if they can get attracted to Lord's pastimes. So how does it work? So if the devotees, they start listening to the glorious pastime of the Lord and His devotees, then the devotees will have that knowledge, that how the Lord, how He acted in this material world, and most importantly, how His devotees, they actually acted under the shelter of the Lord. Because by just looking at them, by taking their example of those devotees, if you see them, then you think that, okay, I don't have to think my protection in a separate way, because if I just surrender to the Lord, then it's enough. I don't have to do anything else. So we see the example of Parikshit Maharaj, right? The one of the most prominent example. And because of whom, we have Srimad Bhagavatam in this fashion, how Srimad Bhagavatam commentary came. So Parikshit Maharaj, emperor of the universe, and then suddenly got cursed by a Brahmana boy, and he will be dead within 7 days. So he gave up, he gave up his kingdom, he gave up his food, he gave up his shelter, he gave up his, all the worldly possessions that he had. And then he sat down and thought, what do I have to do? So if you just think about this kind of situation, suppose if you give up your food, or you give up your shelter, you don't have a place to stay, it's not a very comfortable situation, right? Usually people will not find happiness in this kind of situation. But Parikshit Maharaj shows that what is the real happiness. So he gave up all this material possession, his family, everything, and he came and he sat down and he requested all the sages that he wanted to listen about the glorious pastimes of the Lord and Lord's devotees. Now, if you see that from a materialistic point of view, it's quite impossible. First of all, if you think Parikshit Maharaj, he was a king. Now, usually, when someone is in a very high position in material world, they have the ego. Now his ego has been badly crushed. Why? Because his whole world has just changed by a Brahmana boy. It's not like a big sage who has cursed him. It's just by a Brahmana boy. He was such a he was such a tremendous ruler that he could have gone to all the places in the spiritual world, not the spiritual, I'm saying in the heavenly planets, and he can ask assistance from everyone. But he didn't do it. He accepted the curse, and he said, okay, now what I have only 7 days to go. What is the thing that I should do? And before I leave this world, what is the thing that make me happy? And then he shows us that this is by listening to the glorious pastimes of the Lord and Lord's devotees. Because that is actually a protection. When we say, the Lord saying in Bhagavad Gita that at the end of your life, your final test is you have to remember me. So that's why the common thinking comes, specifically from Indian culture, that when we get retired, then only we start our spiritual practices, so that when we are about to die, we are in middle of that spiritual practice and we remember the Lord. The idea is good, but to put it practically, if you want to just do it for a specific time, first of all, the problem here is don't know when I'm going to die. I can die right now. The second thing is, if you're not habituated to have this kind of, to listening to the Lord's pastime, it's not possible that one fine morning you just wake up and sit down with Srimad Bhagavatam and say, okay, now I'm going to read Srimad Bhagavatam. It will be artificial thing. It will not come to you. So that's why it's important here that the eagerness. So what we have to do is to listen to Lord's pastimes and Lord's devotees' pastimes. We have to be eager to listen to it. Usually what happened that we have as per our Krishna consciousness lifestyle, we said, okay, we have 7:45 Srimad Bhagavatam class, 7:45 to 8:45, 1 hour. I'm going to listen to that 1 hour, okay? Please, Prabhu, make sure you don't extend your class, because after that breakfast prasadam is there. So I just wanted to do 1 hour. And then 1 hour in a week, I'm giving class. So whoever listen eagerly, they also reciprocate very eagerly, right? So it's a nice way to get trained, but you can't be in training for your entire life. At some point of time, you have to evolve and say that the training is there to give you the test, and then you have to take the test, and the ultimate thing is you are preaching the glories of the Lord 24/7. So we have to have that eagerness that, okay, someone is talking, so I just came out of a class, and then again I'm going, someone is asking something. So sit down with someone, and someone asks, so Prabhu, what was wonderful in the class? Or let's talk about it, or have you heard this class? Or let's talk about something. But usually it doesn't happen. We feel oh, we just came out of the class, so now let's discuss about something else. But why is that? The main issue is there is the lack of test. So I was hearing, one time I was talking with Sripalad Prabhu, and I was asking Prabhu that, how is possible, the Kirtaniyas, they do, we used to have in in the temple, we used to have the 12 hours or 24 hours Kirtan roster. We have an hour or half an hour for each slot, right? But then we used to see in Vrindavan, they have 6 hours. One devotee sitting down and singing for 6 hours, 8 hours. And how it's possible, I asked, and Prabhu said that because they have the taste for it. And when you have that taste, and how this taste comes, it comes so that that you're finding when you're going through it, so that the more you become eager, so the more it takes us near to the Lord. And the more we have that feeling, the spiritual feeling, the ecstasy. And once we get it, we want to get it to it again. And that's why the Lord, He deals with the devotees in that way. That He gives the test little by little, little by little. So the devotee is okay, I have that test little bit, but I want to get more. The spiritual greediness, which is nice. Now I want to have more. So like Prakshit Maharaj, then we come to the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, first when he came to Jagannath Puri, just ran into the temple and he just fainted just by looking at having the darshan of Lord Jagannath. It was like the spiritual ecstasy that he had. Okay. Then when he came back to his senses, he started dancing. He's just, okay, he was doing all the things. He was just wanted to hear about the Lord's pastime. He doesn't want to do anything else. So he has this taste. And then he just on that, he just started to build up more and more. He was everywhere he was seeing. He was seeing the, the sand. At some point in the beach, the sand was a pile of sand, and he thought, oh, Govardhan. And he ran towards it. like devotees were like really, they were really worried because time to time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just used to disappear. There one night, like obviously the pastime, that one night they couldn't find him, and then a fisherman found him from the sea. And when they bring him back, and he was like, when he came back to his senses, he said, I was in Vrindavan. Like I was observing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So all these things, like as we get more eager, it takes us nearer to the Lord's pastimes. And Lord's pastimes, they are eternal. Now someone can say that, oh, we are reading of all these pastimes that they happened like millions of years ago. So we can't relate to it that much. But it's not the case. If you see, for Parikshit Maharaj's example, right? He was listening about Ambarish Maharaj, he was listening about Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj. They were from Satya Yuga. So still it was like millions of years back. But he was relishing all those pastimes. So Krishna's pastimes are eternal. There is no concept of time. Like Srila Prabhupada once said that Arjuna 5,000 years ago, when he had the instruction from the Lord in the form of Gita, if someone sits down today with eagerness, enthusiasm, and read it, and read that book, and understand that knowledge from the bona fide representative, they will get it in the same way that Arjuna got it. It's same. You will feel the same, like how Arjuna was feeling, how when Arjuna was getting those knowledge, he was having these wonderful feelings. So you also have the same thing. So there is no concept that, oh, he was in the middle of a battlefield, he was about to have this big battle with his own relatives. But believe me, we all of us going through different kind of battles. And when you sit down and read it, so time in that sense doesn't work. So we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he always emphasized that listen with eagerness. So he used to go to Gadadhar Pandit's house, and then they used to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. And he used to ask Gadadhar Pandit that read. And he was reading the whole day. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, keep reading. It's not like that, oh, actually Canto 4, we have already went through yesterday. Let's start from Canto 5. They are just picking up and they're reading. And he's just relishing that. Now with that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also introduced the Sankirtan Yagna. Why is that? Because in the previous yugas, we see that once you read about Lord's pastimes, right, or you get the knowledge, then to get if you then say, okay, now I want to find, I want to go near to the Lord, or I want to see Him. How can I do it? Then in those ages, the thing is you have to leave your house, go to the jungle, like for Dhruva Maharaj, right? When he got the instruction from Narada Muni, so he went to the jungle, and he was meditating there. But in Kali Yuga, that's not the thing. Kali Yuga, if you have to get that, then you have to, get it through Sankirtan Yagna. And Kali Yuga, even here, the most, wonderful thing is the Lord and His name, through the sound vibration, they're the same. So when in Sankirtan, you enthusiastically take part in Sankirtan with other devotees, you can feel that ecstasy. That is that feeling. So through that you are going near to the Lord. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, introduced that Sankirtan movement. Because other than that, before that, it was very, you don't hear anywhere in the scriptures where, groups of people, they were used to, because before that, it was more bhajananandi. You sit down on a place and you do your secluded place and you do your sadhana. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought that, Goshti Nandi. You have this group of people and then chant together. So that also gives us another important point to understand from this perspective, is the point of association. Now in Kali Yuga, association is very important. Because of our mind is so fickle, and the modes of nature, they are so strong, Now, if we don't have association, like with by only personally by myself, it's very hard. Like I may remain in the path for some time, but there will be always allurement coming here and there. So Srila Prabhupada says that if someone thinks that in Kali Yuga they will be able to remain in Krishna consciousness by themselves, like without taking any association, they are insane. Prabhupada used that word insane. They're insane, like it's not possible. So staying with staying with devotees, taking devotees association, and then obviously from the senior you take guidance from your friends, you help each other, and then you help the junior ones. So you always associate with everyone in that manner. It will help us remain in Krishna consciousness and maintain that enthusiasm and eagerness. Because once that eagerness goes away, and that happens, quite a few of us, when the eagerness goes away, what happens? You see that I used to do the same service. So, we're doing book distribution. So I'm used to do book distribution 10 years back, and I'm doing now, for example. Somehow or other, if the eagerness goes, 10 years ago, that intensity that I had, a morning I want to go to the streets and do all the book distribution. But then suddenly that eagerness, if that goes away, that actually happens again, like Srila Prabhupada said, if the association is not there. If you're under the proper association, that's why we see, we have our Brahmacharya ashram here, and now also in all the temples, ISKCON temples. And that's how they build bhakti vrikshas, right? Like grihasthas, they can stay their home, they can do their sadhana. But it's important that they also come together and do the service. And that's why the concept of bhakti vriksha came. Like where you associate with each other, help each other. So, but all these things will work if the eagerness is there. Like all the nice facilities can be there, but if you're not eager, it's not going to happen. So we see Parikshit Maharaj, we see now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, now our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. I was listening to one of the classes, and it was mentioned there that this is 1972 Janmashtami. Srila Prabhupada was in New Vrindavan. And at that point of time, the Krishna book, came out. George Harrison, sponsored it, the Krishna book. And Prabhupada, on that Janmashtami day, he was saying, okay, we'll read Krishna book. So Prabhupada was sitting, and the room was not that big. It was like a small room. And because it was Janmashtami, hundreds of devotees came from all over the world to meet with Srila Prabhupada, right? And also spend the festival with him. And they all think that Prabhupada will come out, he will, there will be nice, everyone will speak with Prabhupada. But Prabhupada was sitting in that room and he was reading Krishna book. Chapter, next chapter, next chapter. He was just going. And then for the devotees, they were thinking you have written the book, right? So you know it, but still he was reading every word with such, enthusiasm. They were mesmerized by that. So that's why, Srila Prabhupada again said, these words which came into these books, they are so much, they are transcendental. So that's why when you keep reading them again and again and again, every time they bring so much refresh. They're just refreshing you. It's not I have read that text once, but if I read this again, it will bring up something different. But for that eagerness needs to be there. So that the main point is, if the eagerness is not there, then no matter whatever we try. So Srila Prabhupada, that's why, he always put that emphasis for the devotees that read, keep reading, keep reading. Because through reading and listening, you will get that eagerness. That I want to learn more about the Lord. Once you stop that, if for some reason, and we can see very easily, like personally I can say also, that if you're not reading much, you will see that eagerness will go away after some time. But if you keep reading Srila Prabhupada books, that eagerness is always there. You can see the sannyasis, they almost so many sannyasis, they have went through all the books that Srila Prabhupada has published. But still, they are so much eager to read those books again. Like Srimad Bhagavatam again, Bhagavad Gita again. So, that's why we see that in a very wonderful way that the devotees, that the pastimes that we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, they always, whatever the atrocities that they went through, like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, right? You'll never see that their prayers were first to the Lord for physical protection. They never asked for that. But as they were meditating on the Lord's pastimes and on the Lord, protection was automatically there. So that's why I think that in this verse, this is one of the interesting, wonderful point in a way, that when it paritrana sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam, so that paritran will actually automatically comes when we submit ourselves to know about the Lord, to know more about the Lord. And ultimately that will give us the biggest protection. And we don't stray away from our path of Krishna consciousness. So, other than that, we don't have to do any other thing. Yeah, if we do the other things also, that's also time to time there are rituals and things like that we can do for protection and things like that. But they will be just addition to this. But if we don't do this, and if we just do those rituals, it's it may work, it might not work, depends. So many factors. But if you just do this through this, then we see, and from the examples of all the devotees of the Lord that we see, went through atrocities, like Arjuna and the Pandavas, so many things that went throughout the life. But every critical juncture, Krishna was there. Everything, you remember, from everywhere they face some calamity. When, one of the pastime, when Durvasa came, to curse them, because Duryodhan said, oh, go there. You have taken prasadam at my place, thank you, but I'm feeling really bad that my brothers couldn't serve you. But he was cunning, because he was thinking that they are actually, they don't have all those resources to serve the rishis. So he was saying that, let me go there. And Durvasa, he's very angry and he will curse them. And Durvasa was like, oh, you are such a wonderful brother. Yes, I will go to them and I will see them. He went there, he was on his way. Suddenly Krishna appeared in Draupadi's kitchen and said that, okay, feed me something. So it's just see, somewhere or other, he is always there. He will be there. He will be in the chariot he will be chariot in Arjuna during the time of Jayadratha. Everything happened. The time of Jayadratha, Arjuna took the vow in such a way that you will see that there is no way that Arjuna can be, he can get out of it. So Duryodhan, Karna, they were really happy. If I don't kill Jayadratha by tomorrow evening, then I will take my life. And if he kills Jayadratha, then Jayadratha has a boon that whoever kills him, his head will, blown away. So, there is. But then Krishna somehow made the thing that, okay, he covered the sun, Jayadratha came out, he took out his head, Arjuna, and said that, hey, make sure that that head doesn't fall here, falls on Jayadratha's father's lap. Went there and Jayadratha's father's lap and his father's like head blown away. So you just see like, how this is possible. So that's why, like, those protection will all like, already come once devotees get, like, submitted to the Lord. So thank you. We end here. This is such a nice verse, and I think the tomorrow will be the last verse of this chapter, and then from next week, from next one, it is remembrance of Lord Krishna. So I think very nice chapter as we meditate from Nityananda Trayadashi to Gaur Purnima next month. So we finish it here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.